Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 9 of Hanjado, the way of Hanja. And this is the ninth day, still in the first lunar month of the Fire Horse year, Gu Il Wol. Yes, and so just as a very quick review now, I don't assume that people will necessarily watch all of these videos in order, and I want to make each episode as self-contained as possible, so that people can just kind of drop in. But if you drop in and watch one of these videos and think it seems interesting, you might want to consider going back and watching them all in order. But you should be able to, if you just want to learn about one particular character that we're doing today, you can. But one thing that I want to review just very, very quickly is counting in Sino-Korean up to 10. Il, I, Sam, Sa, O. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yuk, Chil, Pal, Gu, Ship. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And today we are doing the 9th heavenly stem, which is pronounced in Sino-Korean Im, and this is the corresponding Hangul for that character. And we can zoom in on that a little bit. Here's the Hanja and the Hangul, and then of course also the Japanese. This is the Jin. I think that's the correct onyomi pronunciation. We'll see the kun pronunciation as well. Something like Nyam is the Vietnamese pronunciation, and I have listened to. I will not attempt to reproduce the Mandarin pronunciation for this one. Do I have this slide twice? Oh, look at that! I'll have to fix that. Now, let's see. What do we? Oh yeah. So this is the character itself, and I'm going to get back to how to write the character, right? And other things like what its radical is, how many strokes it has, all this stuff. But the first thing to learn about any Hanja is the meaning. And the meaning of this Hanja, what is the meaning of this Hanja? The meaning of the Hanja is, as is the case for the first 10 Hanja that we're covering in Hanjado, the meaning is it's one of the 10 heavenly stems. In this case, it's the 9th heavenly stem. And if we go back to the table that I kind of blasted through very quickly, that means it is the yang water heavenly stem, or this can also be referred to as the older brother of water, or water's older brother. But it is the heavenly stem that combines yang with the element of water. Now, but where does one encounter this in I don't know, in real life, other than in the heavenly stems and Taoist ideas and so you might say, what good is it to know these characters? Well, in fact, if you study Korean history at all, or East Asian history, this is actually, so the Imjin War from 1592 to 1598 was one of the most important events in Korean history. It's also a very important event in Japanese history, and also quite an important event in Chinese history. So it is, in fact, a pan-East Asian war that occurred for 6 years, and it's called the Imjin War. The reason why it's called the Imjin War is because Imjin refers to the year in which the war started. 1592 was okay, so you say Imjin War, that comes out to be Im Jin Wei Ran. What does that mean? Well, so Hangul, even though it's been around for quite some time, it wasn't really very widely used until quite recently. And so for most of Korean history, since 1592, most of that time, it's been referred to as the Imjin Weiran, but it was written out like this in Hanja, not in Hangul. And, if we ask, what does Im mean? Well, every individual Hangul only represents a sound. A Hangul in and of itself does not represent a meaning. Okay? It just makes a sound. Whereas a Hanja, they're sometimes called ideographs for this reason, every Hanja has meaning intrinsically, in addition to a sound. And so this first Hanja in Imjin Weiran means the ninth heavenly stem. The second Hanja in Imjin Weiran, which is Jin, means it's the fifth of 12 earthly branches. So it means this is a year. When you see one heavenly stem matched with a earthly branch, then you know that now, this is a year. Let's see. Okay. So here's the ninth heavenly stem, which means tomorrow we'll be doing the last of the heavenly stems, and which means soon after that we'll start on the earthly branches. But actually, before we start doing the earthly branches, we will do first this character, or no, not that character. That's one of the numbers. This character, which means heavenly, and this character, this means, heavenly stem, and then earthly branch. So we're going to do the characters for the names of these things before we move on to the next topic, which will be the earthly branches. And so here's the Im of Imjin, and here's the Jin of Imjin, and then actually, remember this slide? Now here is the current year that we're in, the Byung-o. We're in the Byung-o Nyam, which is a fire horse year. The Imjin year is the, now we're in the element of metal, or not metal, water. This is the yang, yang water is the Im. Jin is the heavenly stem that's associated with the zodiac animal of a dragon. So this is the water dragon year. Okay? So the Imjin War could also be called the Water Dragon Year War. And, so here's a big picture this is a very nice picture of a model of a turtle ship, which played a decisive role in the Imjin War. This is actually a gift from Kim Jong-un. Yes, that Kim Jong-un. And this picture was taken when it was on display in the famous Blue House Museum in Seoul. And so in the banner, the flag being flown on this turtle ship is a banner that just says turtle. This is the Chinese character for turtle, which is also a radical. I think I might have mentioned before that it's usually said that there are 214 radicals in Chinese, and that the higher the number of the radical, the more strokes it has. As you can see by looking at this one, this Hanja has a lot of strokes in it. Anyway, and I think it's the second highest numbered radical. And it's pronounced Gui. Guisun is a turtle ship, although today it's more likely to be referred to as Gobuk-sun. And Gobuk is, I believe, the native Korean word for turtle. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so Imjin refers to the year. And so this is one of the places that you will run into the heavenly stems and earthly branches, especially if you read any Korean history or Chinese history or Japanese history or probably Vietnamese history. These designations of years using the 60-year cycle occur frequently in historical records. So it began in the Water Dragon year, or the 38th year in that cycle. The second two characters, Imjin, so now we know what Imjin means. It's usually referred to as the Imjin Wei Ran. You might think, oh, well, Wei Ran must be the word for war. Actually, it's a word for Japanese disturbance. And I should mention that Wei is a not very nice way of referring to the Japanese that is used by Koreans in this, especially in this context. Okay, we're going to get back to how to write this character in just a second. There's a very interesting aspect to this war. This is what Korea looked like very soon after the Japanese invasion. Japanese had taken over a large part. This is like the red parts are the parts controlled by Japan at this point in the war, and they had seized control much of Korea up along the coast as well. This is what it looked like the following year, where Japan only had solid control of a very small portion of Korea, and this part was now mostly in the control of the Joseon, which is the Joseon dynasty, the Koreans, and their allies, that is especially the Chinese in particular. And the turtle boats is this now. This graphic also lists the naval battles that were won, and so in the first year, or at least up until September of 1592, at that point, the Koreans had won 9 naval battles. A year later, less than a year later, they had won 18 naval battles and had retaken much of the land. So this, there's because in the 60-year cycle, which slide is that on? Oh, yeah. In the 60-year cycle, sorry for going back and forth, the Jin years, that is the dragon years, are always followed by Sa years, that is snake years. So as you cycle through the 60-year cycle, in the 60-year cycle, the heavenly stems are always in order, and the earthly branches are always in order. And therefore, any year of the snake, any year of the dragon, that is always going to be followed by a year of the snake. And there's a there's a saying in Chinese that's pronounced in Sino-Korean, Rongdu Sa Mi, head of a dragon, tail of a snake. What it means is a strong start, but an inability to carry through. And so that was the story of the Japanese invasion. It took another 5 years. It wasn't until 1598 that the Japanese finally gave up and went back home. But that's a pretty prominent example of where you will encounter this character in the naming of one of the most famous events in East Asian history, the Imjin War. And so it's a pretty simple Hanja. It has a total of 4 strokes. This first stroke, and this is an interesting thing to make note of, first stroke goes from right to left. Most horizontal strokes go from left to right, except for when they don't. All right. In fact, here, this character has 3 horizontal strokes. One of them goes from, I'm slightly dyslexic, so I always have to check. One of them goes from right to left. The other 2 go from left to write. Just as most vertical strokes go top to bottom, except for when they don't. And this isn't a perfectly vertical stroke. I mean, perfectly horizontal stroke. It's definitely slanted. And let me just focus in on this character decomposition here. The horizontal stroke that goes from right to left is actually the component biol, which as a standalone component, although it's never written as a standalone character, but as a standalone component when it's just written in a list of components or Hanja, it goes mostly top to bottom, but but veers off to the left as it's coming down. The second component, the other component, is Sa, which is actually one of the most important characters in East Asian culture. This is a scholar, official, or warrior. This is, anyway, the phenomenon of the Sa, the scholar officials, then sometimes called warriors as well, in the history of East Asia is very interesting. I don't want to get too involved in it, except for that's where the examination system, the dreaded examination system, comes in. That's how you get to become a Sa, is by passing tests. And so it's in theory a meritocracy. And this is how all of the government positions in imperial China were traditionally filled. They were filled, again, theoretically, according to a meritocratic system where anybody except for merchants and women, anybody else could take a test. And depending on how well they would do on the first test, the second test, and the series of tests, they could get a government position that has become part of the Chinese government, essentially part of the ruling class. Anyway, so the first component is biol. The second component is Sa. The second component is made up of 3 strokes, so making up the grand total of 4 strokes. And let's look at the animation now. And again, I'll count these off with the Sino-Korean numbers. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa. And there's another repeating pattern that you'll find, and many characters have at one vertical stroke and then have a bottom horizontal stroke. Whenever you have that pattern, the let's watch it again. Let's see. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa. So there is a tendency to write the strokes from top to bottom. There are times when that is a little not quite true, although still partially true, and we'll encounter that eventually. But as a general rule, if there is a stroke that is at the very bottom of a character, it's going to be the last stroke. All right, and we already went through the pronunciations. Went through so the meaning again is that it is the yang. My Midwestern accent's coming through here. My yang water year, that is water's older brother. We've looked at how it's written, what it looks like, how it's pronounced, and we looked at the history, the meaning, and pronunciation. Oh yeah. So before I get to demonstrating actually writing the character, the Hanja and then the Hangul. These are 2 books. I'm going to still, I promised yesterday, and I'm not quite making good on that promise quite yet, but these are 2 good books from the Tuttle Publishing Company. Books that I have and that I've used, and I've used. I use this as a backing to write characters on, but I also use it for studying characters. Both of these books are very useful, and if you're interested in learning Chinese characters, and you have a few bucks that you can spend, these are probably 2 good purchases that you can make. I want to be a little careful. Both of these books come in both a traditional and a simplified character versions. Here I'm showing you the traditional character version. If you don't know the difference between traditional and simplified characters, maybe I'll talk about that in a future. Okay, so here is the stroke order diagram for all 10 of the heavenly stems. And okay, and now we're going to do the Hanja cam, right? Or at least I'm going to try to. Okay. Yeah, excellent. Oh yeah, good. Backwards. All right, that's pretty good shape. Maybe move it up a little bit. Oops. Yeah. All right. Get my good pen. Where's my good pen? One of my good pens. So the first stroke goes from right to left. Il. Second stroke goes from left to right. Sam. Sa, il, e, sam, sa, il, e, sam, sa, il, e, sam, il, e, sam, sa, il, e, sam, sa, il, e, sam, sa, il, e, sam, sa. And the middle stroke, this horizontal middle stroke, should be wider than the bottom stroke. It makes a difference. Il, e, sam, sa. So you want to make sure to make that middle horizontal stroke nice and wide. The il, e, sam, sa. Il, e, sam, sa. Il, e, sam, sa. Cheat, make that a little bigger. Il, e, sam, sam, sa. Okay, and now let's do the Hangul for today. So the Hangul, this Hangul, as many of the Hangul that we've looked at, has a bachim, that means a bottom consonant. This is the bottom consonant, mium. This is the no, this is what? Miul, I think. Miul? Oh, now I can't remember. But this is pronounced M. The circle is called mium, I believe, but it's pronounced like with the ng, except for when it comes at the beginning of the Hangul, in which it is silent, and that's because you can never have a vowel at the beginning of a Hangul. This is the vowel E, and so this is the Hangul is pronounced im, and it has 5 strokes. It actually has, the Hangul has more strokes than the Hanja, and this is im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa, im, o. And whenever you, so let's just im, il, single stroke to make the circle, im, e, a single stroke to make the vowel e. Now when I make the bottom M consonant, it has 3 strokes, and this is a common pattern for both Hangul and Hanja. When you have a box, the box always has a single stroke for the left side of the box. Then the top and right side are a single stroke with a right angle in it, and then the box is closed off by a 3rd stroke at the bottom. And pretty much all boxes in all, well, there's only one box shape in Hangul, but in Hanja there are lots of boxes. And we'll see that. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa, im, o. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa, im, o. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa, im, o. Im, il, im, e, im, sam, im, sa, im, o. And that does it for today's episode of Hanjado. Tomorrow we will be finishing the heavenly stems with the 10th heavenly stem, Ge, and we'll end with that as we watch one more time how the Hanja for today is written. Thanks for watching. See y'all soon.